Hi everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Is It Andy, where we look at mid-century graphic design to try to figure out, was Andy Warhol involved? Well before he became a pop superstar, Warhol spent over 10 years in New York City on the hustle, hoping for gigs that would allow him to send money back home and to live in a fairly high lifestyle of culture, good food, and success at what he was eventually to call the greatest art of all, making money. So he took gigs, many of them. The official life story focuses on his work for the I Miller shoe campaign and a handful of book and record jackets. But I believe there is so much more, uncredited, unacknowledged, even erased from history. This channel is a treasure hunt, seeking those commissions out on the basis of brute force eyeball and understanding the connections that made his commercial life go round. These are all guesses, but perhaps further research and the archives will eventually turn up the truth. Today, we're focusing on his most recognizable graphic line, meaning the artistic style he created to distinguish himself. It's a technique of pen, ink, and paper blotting that he developed well back in art school, and it's one of the few instantaneously recognizable signs of this chameleon of an artist. The line is inky, blobby, spotty, and ghostly, as if Jackson Pollock somehow went zen and got interested in calligraphy. But unlike Pollock's drips and spatters, Andy's is a slow, labor-intensive process. First, he'd draw an image on paper. Then he'd tape another piece of paper on its border so that it could fold down on the first. Then, with the two sides open, he'd apply ink to a portion of the line drawing, lightly press the second sheet down on top, and presto, blobby trace ink appears in reverse. Inch by inch, the line would track, like it was laid down by a fabulous snail. Highly distinctive, highly aesthetic, all Warhol. So, when you see this blobby line in mid-century art, you can very rightly ask the question, is it Andy? I found it on 3 book jackets, attributed to another artist, and 1 anonymous. The credited ones go to a very influential art director, whom a newbie fresh to New York would be delighted to be in good standing with, on the age-old principle of do a favor, get a favor. Which brings us to Sidney Butchkes, who had imperial standing in New York art and art direction in the 50s and 60s and beyond. He was the jacket designer on Amy Vanderbilt's book, in which Warhol's first ever credited illustrations appear. Butchkes may or may not have helped Andy get that gig. Butchkes was also the art director of the Doubleday Crime Club, a series of mystery novels for which Warhol illustrated on credit on a few occasions. But I've also got these 4 jackets. The credit goes to Butchkes, but the illustration line seems distinctly Warholian. The first is Little Disturbances of Man. It features a small Cupid, one of Andy's favorite avatars. The second book is The Federalist Papers. It shows founding fathers, clearly traced and blobbed by some easy access sources. Here there's no credit evident at all. I think I may know who was responsible for the art. The third title is immensely beautiful packaging for Helen Keller's teacher, Anne Sullivan Macy. The illustration specifically evokes how Keller and Macy communicated by touch. Let's remember here that Andy did frequent studies of hands. This one, if it is indeed his, may be among the loveliest. And finally, this autobiography of John Stuart Mill, with the fabled economic theorist showing a distinctly blotchy demeanor in profile. Taken from this old engraving, Butchkes gets the credit. I think it's very interesting that an artwork exists that is actually credited to Warhol on this very subject, an economist. Here is his John Stuart Mill of 1953. Can we put two and two together? So Butchkes' name is on these jackets, all issued by Doubleday. Why might Andy have participated without credit? Because then, as now, making it in New York meant cultivating contacts, doing favors, being reliable, and being pliable to a degree. This guy could help him get jobs and introductions. And at this stage of Warhol's life, that's what really mattered. 10 years later, he would turn the tables of credit and authorship on corporate America, and art was never the same again. I'd love to hear what you think about these jackets and this proposal. Please stay tuned for more examples of Is It Andy? Next time, examples of vintage fabric.